It's Monday, and it can only mean one thing. It's the Merry Monday Mailcall Show. Good morning to you all. My name's Dave. This is still only 35 cents, and welcome to the channel. If you've not been with us before, hit that subscribe button. And if you like the video, hit the like button. For this one, we have a very special battle session where we're going to be talking about my recent video about quitting CGC comics collecting and grading. And we're going to talk about the pros and cons of CGC grading versus keeping raw books. Now, we've brought a special guest on today who I was not really surprised to have him step up for this session. It's my friend and yours, Mad Spidey. And let's make him big, shall we? There he is. Yeah. Hello, sir.
Where's the background? Where's the background?
I need the background.
You need the background. Come on.
Need the background. Hang on. Let's get it. Let's bring it up so everyone can. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Oh, there it is. There it is. Let's just turn us off for 1 second. And we're back. My camera's a bit shot today. I don't know what's going on. Oh, well, there you go. A little better now. You can see me. So welcome, Spidey.
Thank you for having me again. I wonder. If you know me, you know I am the raw guy. I am the destroyer of slabs. But in saying that, I will still be diplomatic in this particular thing because I still can, like, yes, you said battle, but I can still see the advantages of slabs, yes. but I can also clearly see the disadvantages as well.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that because the video that I put, and I'll put a link to the video when the live's finished in the actual description, so everyone can go and check it out. And I'll put a link in the actual video as well, so that you can go and check that out. But the long and short of it is, I've been a CGC collector for a long time. Mostly because I want to preserve books. But the new tariffs has really sent me. There's no way I can send stuff across.
Well, I did say the video, yes.
Yep, given the uncertainty. But I do collect both. So I think I have a bit of a balanced view. And I'm increasingly more and more, well, definitely now, moving towards raw books. And I thought today we'll talk through the pros and cons, mate. And again, why you love raw versus why I like CGC, etc. And then I also thought what I'd do is I'd share with you like a whole bunch of books that have been sitting. I have 3 drawers where I put my CGC graded candidates. And we'll talk through why they're in that drawer, why they're ready to go, and then
why they're not going,
and why they're not going, and also some of the perils and pitfalls of CGC, because I think that's also not very widely known as well. Is like just the amount of logistics you have to go through and hoops to even submit a book is incredible, right? So maybe I'll bring up the overhead camera. Let's pop this. Oh, I keep messing this up. Why do I do that? There you go. Let's pop this one up. So you can receive from the thumbnail. I've got a 9.6 of Hulk 340 here, right? This is direct edition. You can tell that's the direct edition because it's got the Spidey head. But classic issue. Want to make sure that I keep. Have a graded copy that's really, really good. But equally, I've got the raw copy too. And this is the newsstand. Now, I was going to get this one graded. It has a chance at a sort of 9. Actually, looking at it, probably not. Probably not. But this is how I generally do it. I'll look at the book. I'll see if it's worth grading. And I'll put like one of these stickers on, right? And that sort of helps me identify whether or not I think it's potential grade worthy. This one, looking at it now, it's got a corner crunch up here, or it's got a little bit of a crease, color breaking crease here, corner crunch there. So this is like definitely not going into grade. So this has gone into my raw collection. But so this is the problem with CGC. Once that's in there, unless you crack it out, you're done. You can't read it. You can't open it. You can't check it out. And I do agree. Increasingly, my what I love to do is actually read these bloody things.
And I love the smell of old comics, which a lot of people think it's creepy, but if you are a comic book collector, it is something that you do, especially with older books. You can just open it up and go, I love that old comic book smell.
Yeah, especially the Silver Age and Golden Age stuff, right? Which really does have a stench. But even these sort of 80s coppers, this book in particular, I remember picking up when it first came out. So classic Todd McFarlane, Peter David. And I remember reading this story and thinking how awesome this was. So yeah, just again, the fact that you can go through it and read the book, see the art. One of my favorite issues at the time, because of the fact you had the Hulk, and it wasn't like the original battle in Hulk 181. There's the Hulk is bleeding, and Wolverine is like smashing through him. So it's visceral, and it's just great to have it, right?
And it's Grey Hulk opposed to Green Hulk.
And a Grey Hulk as opposed to Green Hulk, yes. The pre-Joe Fixit days. This is when we reverted back to changing at night, which is the origin of the Hulk. He would change only at night. But you can see here, Wolverine stabs him through the chest. It's pretty graphic stuff. But yeah, really great to be able to pick this up. And so now this is staying raw. I shall keep it raw. My only problem with keeping them raw, mate, is that I don't trust myself sometimes, right?
Especially the good old tape pull is the bane of every comic book's existence.
Yeah, the tape pull's a nightmare, and so that's why I thought it would be. That's where I'm sort of switching my collecting habits now. I'm going to go mostly raw because there's no point sort of submitting. The only exception is I'll submit during if it still works out, taking books with me to the US.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm not sure if you get hit with tariffs, right?
Yeah, it's very up in the air at the moment. I know I got a little bit of information from what you read out from that, that blurb from CGC themselves. But I have not. It's going to be interesting actually, because I'll probably find out because Rob's building up a box for me at the moment. For anybody in the chat, Rob Fatstacks. Pretty much anything that that I win or I buy or anything like that, which is not very much, it will go to Rob Fatstacks, and then we'll organise getting it over here. That will be interesting to find out, because I've not had anything sent or bought anything from the States since this tariff thing has come in.
I think you're good coming. It's anything coming in, you're still good. The same old rules apply. No one's changed anything, right? It's getting it into the US.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I've only been pinged once sending books to CGC, and that was from the UK. One of my auction houses sent books direct, and it got bounced back because it didn't have one of those TIB forms, which I think is like the importer of record. No, TIR, the importer of record docs. And so it got sort of sent back, right? But that's only ever happened once out of 10 years of submitting books.
Yeah.
But I just feel now that's, when I read what CGC had put out in their statement, it was like, there's so much uncertainty. It's just not worth doing it. I have been remiss, by the way.
Chat,
exactly. So we have the toy box, who was first officially. So welcome. Good to see you. Vincent's here, always in the chat, which is great to see you. How are you, Vincent, mate? Great. Welcome. And then I think all the way down the bottom, Chonko Comics and Nerd Culture. Hello, how are you? And Dan jumped in just at that last minute. Hello, everyone. Dan's Hobby Corner. Welcome to you all. If you're in the chat, let us know what you think about the conversation. And CGC, which one wins for you, right? Both, one or the other. So, Spidey, why do you not despise slabs, but why do you prefer raw over slabs, my friend?
So raw. So for me, it all started with price. So I know, like, we won't get into it's a totally different ball game over here in Australia, buying books. But a general rule of thumb is, because of me being on a limited budget, trying to buy these old silver, bronze age, even copper age Marvel books, especially the big boy books. It's all to do with raw in theory should be cheaper than slabs. Obviously, as I said, over here it's a different ball game, but yeah, in theory it should be that. And even though I'm not a reader anymore, I may or may not go back to it. I am still a lover and still a collector of comics. And just to open the book, obviously, check it's all there, and especially if you're spending a bit of dollars on a book. But as I mentioned just before, like, just that old comic book smell, you just love it. And just to be able to look through it and go, the art in this thing is amazing. It's very nostalgia based and things like that. And obviously it is a little bit easier to store, or for me personally, store comic books in raw form, because it's just short boxes. Yes, you can get boxes for slabs, but if you have 5,000 comic books like I do, if they were all slabs, that would be like 100 slab boxes, whereas I have like 30 or 40 short boxes, sort of thing. So, but as I said, like, yeah, I'm not. I'll always be diplomatic when the actual proper question is asked. Like, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to crack it and this and that. But yeah, there is some advantages and some disadvantages, obviously, to slabs. But I still see, like, the amount of guys that I follow on YouTube, especially like you, Rob Fatstacks, DJ Links, all these guys that collect slabs. Oh, this should have been a 9.8 and it was an 8.5, and it took a year to get back, and all this sort of stuff. Yes, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's becoming more and more, it's happening a lot more.
Yeah, I was talking to Simple Simon about this when he came to talk to me about grading his books. Now, his books are still, I'm looking at the submission tracking now for the books. So they've been scheduled for grading for over like three weeks now. So they haven't been graded yet. And I've got one of mine have come back already, which is part of the unlimited tier, which is like those save for books over $1,000. Only one of those is shipped. That's the Avengers 4. So I will get that this week.
I'd love that book.
It's a great book. But yeah, I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Simon's 6 submissions still outstanding to come back, right? Now, who knows what they'll come back? I mean, that's the game you play, right? It's a tough one. I think the thing that I'm thinking about. So in the old days, I agree with you. Price was critical, right? Because CGC books were more expensive, particularly those in higher grade. But what I've tended to find is that people now charge CGC prices for raw books.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the other danger that I've seen happen, is that they assume a grade, and so therefore they'll charge you the grade of the CGC point. So would you consider buying? And I already know the answer to this because I know you've talked to you about it, but it's good for the rest of the crew to hear it, or the audience to hear it. Would you buy a CGC graded book and then crack it?
Hell yeah.
Would you always do it?
Yeah, I still own slabs now, only because I haven't got around to cracking them yet. There may be like special instances where I won't crack a slab. Obviously, the book that I gave to you, the Inner Pack book, I'd won it through Comics Curing Cancer. If you didn't know what it is, check it out. I won that through donating and things like that, and it was a book that I knew did not fit my collection. But in the same instance, I was not going to crack it, because if I was to use it to sell, trade bait, or give it away, which is I did, I gave it to Dave, it would be better off just staying as it is. There's no point. I will buy a book in a slab, and that's why I said, like, I still have maybe 15 slabs sitting at home.
Yeah.
I will buy it if the price is negligible. So if I look at it and go over here, okay, I bought, say, Tomb of Dracula 10. I still have that sitting there in a slab at the moment. I bought that because, one, it's a very rare book over here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I was allowed to pay it off, so on and so forth. But it was the factor of the price that was, I would be paying the same price raw as I would have been paying slabbed anyway. So I was like, I want the book. I don't give a crap. I will just buy it in a slab and I'll eventually crack it.
So that's what I don't. So I get normal slabs, right? Where there's no key significance. Because I was going to ask you the question, if you had an Amazing Spider-Man 1, right? And you got it at a cheap price and it was in a slab, but you knew that it had inherent value above what you paid for it. Would you crack it then? And actually, Tomb of Dracula 10 is a good example. So I would, in that instance, I wouldn't. I would try and find a reprint or a facsimile to enjoy the book and keep it graded, because then that's future value, because you're not going to get technically the same price. So that's why I'm interested in that perspective.
The diplomatic answer is yes, I do think about that side of things, but on the flip side, I don't do facsimiles, I don't do reprints. Like, yes, it is a great idea if you are a reader and you have a big boy book that you've spent a lot of money on in a slab. I can understand that. And that's why I'll say, like, I'll always be diplomatic about this. But me personally, because I'm not going to go and I don't do facsimiles, I don't do reprints. I probably may or may not read it. And so I will always go, I've spent a lot of money on this book. I am not going to go and buy a raw version of it, even if I get it at a cheaper price, because that money I could buy other books I don't have.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people that can do duplicates. I hate duplicates, because if I had decent disposable income, my situation may change, but I don't. Right. So that is the reality of it, basically. Yeah. So I have some really good books that are in slabs at the moment. Like I have, as I said, the Tomb of Dracula 10. I have a Hulk 5. I have a ASM 4, the Sandman, not the Silk. So I have some bigger books in there, but yes, I will eventually crack them. If somebody said to me, look, okay, you have a Tomb of Dracula 10 4.0 CGC, I have a raw copy that's complete, I will give you my copy and some cash or another book I wanted or something. Hell yeah, of course. I would do a trade of some kind like that. But I don't advertise generally what I have in slabs, because eventually I will do a slab cracking with Spidey video where I destroy the slabs in some stupid way. But yeah, like, thinking realistically, if it gives me a gain to get something else that I want, or maybe some spare cash or whatever, I would still look at that opportunity. I'm not going to say, nah, I've bought it, that's it.
Okay. We've got a couple of other comments as well. Let's go through these. So, Toy Box, raw, all day long. Love to read them. Take them to shows to get signed. Cheaper. That's true too. That's very true. I just did a video on the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. One of the things that I'm going to do is take those along. I've got a really good set that I was going to consider getting graded, which I'm not going to get graded now. But I'm going to take the older, sort of less pristine copies and grab as many of the artist's signatures on the sketches they do in that book, which I didn't realize until I recently did the review. If you go through each one, you get like Walt Simonson, you get Rick Leonardi, John Byrne, you name it, right? Like Art Adams there. So basically go to the art in those different pages and get them signed in the book. And again, when you get their slabs, you can't see those.
No.
So that's one of the ideas. Yes, I agree that you should. It's a lot cheaper. And then Dan's Hobby Corner. I think if I grade a book, it's just going to be a book I really like, nothing special or anything. Just a book that means a lot to me, no matter the grade. And I've done that.
A lot of collectors do.
But I've definitely stepped back from that. I used to do that a lot. And some of these books I'm going to show you will be a perfect example of that, where I would in the past have submitted them, but the prices, remember I was submitting at the beginning, they were like, it was $20 to submit a book, right? It's now $40, right? So it stacks up, and I agree with you, Dan. It's a nice thing, but it's also an expensive hobby in that regard, right?
And in most cases, people generally will not send one book. They will send multiple books to try and get a deal on the shipping. And it's, like I know people that will submit 30 to 50 books. Most people will sort of submit, what do you reckon, maybe 5 to 10 at most. It
depends. Average. So you can submit up to 25 per lot, right? And I generally try my best to get as many as possible, particularly when they're shipping back to Australia. The good news about CGC is that their international shipping prices, yes, it's high, but actually when I ship, it's 4 times the amount to ship the books to them. They've got this great deal with FedEx where, 5 books I think is like $80, and then all the way to 25 books is like 140 or something like that, right? Like it's the economics stack up if you've got more, right? So I try and do batches of 25 or 10 to your point, and try and sort of absorb that cost of it coming back.
Yeah, maximize the books per the dollar of the shipping.
Yeah. The toy box. I did a new 9.8 New Mutants 98. Congratulations.
Nice.
Hard book to get. Newsstand or direct? Be more interesting on that one. And then Arrow's joined us. Good morning, peeps. Good morning to you, Arrow. Hello.
Morning.
So mate, I'm going to put the camera back up again, and take you through some of these books that have been sitting in the drawer, and they literally over the last couple of years. Now, the first batch is books that I am definitely going, if I had the chance, would submit. Right.
Look at the last comment.
Which was that one? Good question. Let me look. But cracked it wide open. There you go. Oh, that's a shame. That book would be worth a pretty penny now. So let's bring this back up again. And I'll show you. These are the ones that if I could submit, and these are the ones I might still take to the US, right? To see if I can do. So the first one on the list is G.I. Joe 38. Beautiful Mike Zeck cover. This one is a near mint plus. It cost me a pretty penny. And I just bought this on a whim. I'm not normally a G.I. Joe fan. But
no, I'm not a big G.I. Joe guy.
But I'm a big, massive Mike Zeck fan. And I know that, if I get this graded and it gets a 9.8, 9.6, 9.8, it's worth it to me, right?
Is this a first appearance book? Or I know a lot of the G.I. Joes are, but...
I don't think so. It was a cover buy for me because it was
just a classic cover.
Yeah. So that's that one. This one
that looks familiar.
Yeah, well, I got this at the Yarraville Comic and Toy Fair. Found it in a bin. I think I ended up paying like $35 for it. This is Australian dollars, by the way, folks. So that would be about 20, 25 US for this.
That was when I bought my Hulk 180.
That's it. It's exactly right. So I wanted this, and yeah, it's in decent shape. So this has some really nice residual value if you get it graded, and if it gets the higher grade. And this is one of those where, you could get it signed as well by Greg Land, because the cover's by Greg Land. And who knows? That's a contender, right? So toy box. It was a direct edition, still pricey, my friend, still pricey. It would have been even more over the newsstand. And then great cover. This is Ronnie. Hi, Ronnie. Good to see you. Great cover. That's my childhood. G.I. Joe and Transformers. Again, great cover. Yeah. Another one, if Larry Hammer could sign that, or Mike Zeck with a yellow label, that would look absolutely schmick.
That would stand out quite well.
Yeah, it would be really good. But yeah, that was on the list. This is a sketch that I got from Comics Curing Cancer from Izzy versus NYC. So I was going to get this when I'm taking this to Heroes to see if we can get it graded and get the yellow label from him. So that's coming. So that will come with me to Heroes to see if we can get it done.
I'm the same, Ronnie. It does not faze me either way. Like I just want the book, and this is why, like, I'm the perfect person for the Raw versus Slab thing. But it's also the same debate for the newsstand versus direct. I do not care either way.
Yes.
I just want the book for the book, regardless of what that little UPC code or head is in the corner.
So I used to be, when I was collecting back in the 80s, I used to love the corner boxes.
The corner boxes are awesome
with the art, and I've got a renewed appreciation for the newsstands. Like, I like the barcodes now because unless it's got like a decent bit of new art, I get like the toy box. I'd love to get Mike Zeck to sign comics, but he rarely appears anymore. That's true too. I heard he moved to Vietnam. Not sure if that's true or not. I think that is true. He's definitely moved to Asia. Also, Bob Layton is, I think, in Korea as well. So a lot of them are moving over here. Not sure why, but yeah,
the next Exodus.
Ghostly Tales. This is a Charlton book, so this one is super high grade. So I was like, look, I've got to get this. Not very many of these graded. They're tough to get in high grade. So this was a non-negotiable, because if this hits a 9.8, there's so few of them on the census in the first place, and they're so,
would that need a clean though? Because like I can see the yellowing in that white strip above the top.
Well, that's less. Yeah, look, it probably needs a blue LED rather than actually a clean, because that's not dirt. That's just
H.
But these are like, the way that CGC grade these books. What you'll tend to find is they look at a whole batch of them. They'll still grade on the technical issues, right? But they've said this to me on the UK books, right? They'll take what's the word they used? They do a little. They base it on the actual quality of the books, right? So they'll create a range based on that, right? So this one, because of the paper quality, it might still end up with that sort of 9.6, 9.8, even with right, because it's they go, oh well, that's what the books end up looking like, right?
Grade accordingly depending on the age as well. Is what you're sort of saying, yeah.
Which they shouldn't do, but a book should be judged on its merits. But they do give some like leverage for like golden age and silver age, right?
Yeah,
right. All New X-Men 96.
First appearance of Moira McTaggart.
Yep, first Moira McTaggart. 98. And these are really nice. So these will be coming with me and submitted. These are all pence variants, you'll notice as well.
God, did I just say what I just saw under that book?
You did.
Oh, God.
Issue 99.
God,
101 pence variant. This is my third one now that I'm getting graded.
Oh God! I just want one.
Yeah.
not a
102.
That's a cool cover.
Sense variant. Yeah, it's great. Dave Cockrum cover. 105 with Firelord.
I love Firelord.
Yeah,
he's a cool herald, or was a cool herald.
106. Nothing significant on that one, but I'm a completionist, so I need to get my X-Men graded books.
First Bullseye.
First Bullseye, pence edition in very, very nice shape. So yeah, looking forward to, if I ever, like, this one would go if I was able to do it.
Where's Rob?
Yep, there you go. Spider-Man 2099 newsstand in tip-top shape. I got this from Son of Crom as an AOK.
Oh, nice.
fantastic. I was like super surprised, and it's as clean as a whistle. So, yep, that's coming. All these are going to come with me, and we'll see what happens when when we go through the customs. But who knows? It might get charged, might not. Mr. Miracle, issue 6, first Funky Fleischman, I think, and the Female Furies. This is in really tough. It's a tough book to get in high grade anyway.
A lot of dark there.
Yeah. And then some more X-Men here. So you got X-Men 100, X-Men 97, X-Men 107 first. I think it's not the first Star. It's not the first Starjammers. It's the second Starjammers. It's the first John Byrne art. And then this one that I picked up at WonderCon, which completes the run of The Dark Mansion of Forbidden Love. But yeah, another beautiful copy. This cost a pretty penny, but finishes off the run. The other 3 are in grading at the moment, which were submitted at WonderCon, which is my possible last submission. So that's those. Let me just check in with the chat. Andy B, morning guys. What are your thoughts on Halo grading as they are in Australia? We'll come to that. Actually, that's a good point. And then Toy Box to Toy Box. I've got my entire run of Spider-Man 2029 signed by Rick Leonardi. He charged a few dollars, I'm assuming. So under $50 to have the entire series signed. Oh, he charged $1 each book.
Oh, nice.
That's great. That's fantastic. Really good one. I'm assuming that's when was that? Where did you get that signature?
And how long ago was that? Because that's probably changed.
Charged $1, yeah. So back to Halo. What do we think of Halo, Spidey? I have my thoughts on that.
Yeah, so obviously I haven't dealt with, like, I've wanted to not necessarily submit, but I want to buy certain Halo books for certain community members, because I know there are some guys in the States that just want a Halo slab to say they have a Halo slab. I have sent a few over, but yeah, there's some I want to get some. Yeah, I want to get some more, but I'm trying to obviously looking for specific books or just for cheaper ones. But Halo, the slabs themselves are probably, and not trying to be biased towards an Australian slab company, but they are probably one of the strongest slabs in the market. But hang on, they're also quite different. The inner well with the grooves and things like that looks cool. I know. When I sent one to Remy Q, he absolutely loved that. The only problem with that is it's a little bit like, I think it's a PGX as a one-man band.
Yeah.
It's basically a one-man band. Like there are plenty of Halo slabs floating around in Australia, but it's probably a little bit hard, obviously, being a one-man band to submit and to get them in a reasonable time. But they are quite strong.
So I've had 1 or 2 Halo slabs in my time. I don't like them. And this is not a slight on them. It's just I don't like that slab. I don't like the fact that it's glued together, and it has a sort of I don't like this. I just don't like the slab. It's not for me. My other observation is that their grading is they overgrade, right? So I had a 9.6 Aussie Australian price variant of Deadpool's first appearance, New Mutants 98. They graded it as a 9.6. I sent it into CGC, came back a 9.4.
That's only one point loss though, so
yeah, but that's generally I've never, and then this is the same for like CBCS and with PGX, right? In fact, with PGX, I've had CGC find things that PGX missed, such as trimmed pages, right?
I've heard PGX is they're the American overgrader from what I've heard.
Yeah. So it's I'm not. I also like if you were to sell a Halo slab on Heritage, like I'd never get a big book graded with Halo, right? Because you wouldn't see the value if you ever came to sell it, right? So then it's almost like I'd rather keep it. What I really hope one of these companies do is rather than slab them, give us a grade at the time. Like I've heard a lot of people talk about this. Someone should set up a company where you have a whole bunch of graders who can give you a sense of what that actual book looks like, rather than going, like have like a $5 or a $10, just a simple assign a grade, right, for that book at the time. Potential.
There is. Well, don't forget there is the soft shell grading, like the raw grading as they call it. Yeah. Which is like obviously a lot cheaper than the hard slab stuff, but you're still under the same principles of that company. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still sealed.
Yeah. And that's the issue is like, and that's probably why I buy from Dave and Rachel at Future Past Vintage Collectibles, right? Because they're the closest I've found to a accurate grade for the book they're giving you. Right. Obviously, there's a little bit of room for error, but generally I buy from them because I know I'm going to get high grade books, and I can be relatively certain that they've graded them to CGC's standards, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm really switching a lot to raw, because I can get books like that and crack them open. Like I'll give you a good example. I don't have one to. Yeah, no, I do have one to hand. So this is Johnny Quest. I got the full set. They're all near mint. But yeah, beautiful condition. I can crack it open and read it. So, Christina Payne is in the house. Hello, Christina. How are you?
Hey, Christina.
Dropping the links for our friend Mad Spidey. That's good to see. Thank you. So yeah, I've got a whole batch more, mate, and we'll just quickly go through these. You'll like some of these. We'll start with these.
I already have. I'll have that one, and I'll have that one, and I'll have that one.
Here we go. So bring this up to here. Ooh. So these are the ones that I'm not getting graded now. Like just they're in the drawer. They probably go back into the raw box, but the economics on these don't work, right? Like if I graded this, it gets a 9.4. It's not going to be 9.6. It's not going to increase its value, because that's generally what I try to do. Is like I'll grade it if I know it's got inherent value, because then you can potentially on sell it, right? So a book like that it's not really gonna, unless you get a 9.8, and even then it's still, the investment you've done to grade it isn't worth it, right?
It's the dollars versus the return is not inherent.
Yeah. This one again, spec books is another one, right? I used to do a lot of this. Grade a book on spec and then sell it on.
But that would be harder being over here, because the spec market, even though I don't dive into the spec market, it is a very tight window. So
it's a tight window.
So to try and buy a spec book, try and slab it, get as high a grade as you can, and sell it in that window, if you're not in the States and like literally next door to CGC, it's quite hard.
It's hard, exactly. And I gave up on that. It worked at the beginning when not a lot of people were doing it, right? But now everyone and his dog is doing it. So I was like, it's just not worth it. So I'll still pick these up. And this one's great because it's the first Elektra as Daredevil.
Yep.
So I wanted to pick that one up.
Hot for a minute.
Hot for a minute. X-Men 2099, always a good book to pick up. Love picking up these foil covers. And yeah, look, if there's the problem is with this one, there's no money in it, right? Like there's no money in it. So why would I get it graded now? I'd rather keep it raw and just enjoy the book. So was a candidate, not going in. This thing, I'd got a whole bunch of these graded, again, foil goodness from the 90s. This is
shiny.
Alan Davis's Clandestine, which were the family where Miss Marvel comes from, the Kamala Khan. So, yeah, like beautiful book, great cover, looks great in a slab. However, there's no money in it. So why would I grade that, right?
And welcome, Joel, new subscriber. Hope you're doing well, sir.
Hello, Joel. Hello from Seattle, Washington. New subscriber and first time watching live show. Welcome. Interesting to see your point of view on spec and slabbing from outside the US. Yes, it's blinking expensive.
And that's putting it mildly.
Unless you go over and submit at cons like I do traditionally. But these are books that would never normally. You can guess I got a lot of these. And again, this is another one of those where I was chasing 9/8s in the whole of the run. And so I was submitting as many as possible. I've got the 9/8 now, so I don't need to submit any more of these. But these are all pretty much guaranteed 9/8s, right? But there's no money in it. So there's no point submitting this for $40 to, it's probably going to sell for $40, right? If that.
Yeah.
We've got a Daredevil 227. I think this is one of the classic first Kingpin issues with Daredevil. Fantastic Four annual number 15. Again, not really a key issue, not really going to fetch too much money, so there's no point. First Wrecking Crew, that did have some value for a while, but now has dropped off the... So no point submitting that.
About one of the only slightly bigger keys in that run, really.
Yeah. Great issue, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one has some potential spec. Right, this is the first West Coast Avengers. Yeah, could still do that, but I just don't. Again, it's one of those where I don't need to now get this slapped. To me, there's no benefit to it. I'm not really going to sit there and wait for this to appreciate in value. I'd rather now keep this raw and be able to read it. Fantastic Four. This one's a key issue and actually does have some value if it hits the right grade. But again, I'm like, I'd rather enjoy the book, right? Especially because it's early John Byrne on the Fantastic Four. And I think it's a key issue as relates to Franklin Richards as well.
Franklin Richards, yeah.
Yeah. Let me just see. Avengers 162. This is the first Joe Castor. Again, the value of this is not like Joe Castor's not coming to the MCU anytime soon, so no point putting that in. Great book, though.
Yeah, but I think I may have a copy of that, I think.
Yeah. Another Fantastic Four, beautiful condition.
Terrax,
yep. Issue 242. Again, I don't see the point because I'd love to, if it was $20, I might sort of submit this, but then you've got to do cleaning and pressing just to make sure. So I'm like, nah, I'm not going to bother. But yes, Terrax.
Hey, Cliffy.
Hey, Cliff's in the chat. Hello, Cliff. How are you? Hey, fellas. Nice to see you.
Always good to see Cliff.
This.
Oh, God, this book again.
This book's a funny one, right? Like, these are all, again, 9.8 candidates. I've got like 1, 2, and 3. Right? I've got 1, 2, and 3.
Shit.
1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. So 4 sets of 1, 2, and 3 in absolutely brilliant condition. Got these out of multi-packs, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they were in superb condition. There's got some value at 9.8. But it's like, do I pull the trigger? Do I take the risk? The answer now is no, because there are a few of them on CGC on eBay. They're not selling. So I'd rather keep them raw. Maybe sort of flick them onto someone who really loves the Smurfs.
Yeah.
So, but great little books from Marvel that not a lot of people know about. The Smurfs.
Yeah.
Original artist Payo. So that's that lot. I've got a whole stack here, Spidey. You're going to love it. Fantastic Four 247.
Oh, I love that cover.
Great Doom cover. That's no longer going in. This one is interesting I think I've showed this before. This is Our Flight number 1. This is my second copy. There are 2 of these now, signed by John Byrne on the interior.
Yep. Old school.
So that might go, if I do go over to the US, well, when I do go over to the US, this might be one that I do submit because I do want that signature authentication. The only issue is it's not on the front cover. It's on the inside cover. So again, it's one of those where I'm sort of weighing up whether or not it's worth doing that. This one needs a clean and press. This was going to go, but I'm not going to bother now. This is the first appearance of Jenica, the 5th Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
Yep.
Well, not but before she became the turtle. And this is one of those blind bonnet. This is a variant cover. It's got a little issue, I think, on the corner, which just needs pressing out. It's fine. This is a good example of why books that you shouldn't get graded, but this is one of those books that I would love to get graded, right, for my personal collection. Not because it's got any value, because it means a lot to me. I don't know if you know about this. So this is the story where they destroyed the new universe, essentially.
Okay, because my automatically thought was to go to the independent book of Pitt, but obviously it's different.
No, this is the Pitt with. It was written by John Byrne, Mark Grunwald, and art by John Buscema, and it's essentially the new universe. Starbrand is the main character in the new universe, and I don't think I'm doing any spoilers, but John Byrne took it over because it was failing. Jim Shooter had left. And this was New Universe was Jim Shooter's project, and he wasn't doing very well in sales. And so in one of John Byrne's issues, he blows up Pittsburgh, like takes the whole thing out in this massive like ball of energy, wipes it out, and there's a hole in the ground where Pittsburgh used to be, and that's why it's called the Pit.
So it's not actually a character; it's actually based on a location.
It's on a location, yeah, and it's all about what happened post that disaster in the new universe. So
yeah, I never even heard of that book.
It's fantastic. But I actually really loved how dark the new universe got very quickly when John Byrne took it over. And I quite like this sort of idea that, you know, the universe sort of falls apart. It was always quite a real. The premise for the whole thing was what would it be like if superheroes were real? Rather than the Marvel universe, it was very grounded, and so this was a perfect fit. But again, this is one of those vanity books. I'd love to get it graded, but not worth it. So it's now going to stay in the reader pile. Spectacular Spider-Man 72 again.
Nice.
Wanted to get it graded again. Why do I need to get it graded now? I can put it into a bag and board and enjoy it. I think sometimes you just want to get stuff graded just so you can sort of be sure of the grade. And again, I come back to this point, right? If someone just offered that, it would be, I'd probably sign up for that. Like if someone was charging $5 and you could take a whole bunch of books and get them graded at CGC levels, knowing what those books grades were, I'd pay for that. I'd pay like $5 for that.
Yeah, like put a CGC official sticker on it saying we've cited this. And we agree this is a 9.8 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Joel the Geek said, "Oh wow, never heard of the Pit. Now I want it." It is a very good read. I think you should definitely pick up the later issues of. Well, pick up the Starbrand run and pick up the Pit.
Is that a mini or a maxi series or?
It's like 3. I think there were 3 different issues. So they continued the story beyond the Pit. Where they talked about all the characters from the new universe and what happened with them. And John Byrne's Starbrand run finishes off, like it tells more of the story. So the Pit was almost like a one-off special, and then they went back to the comics.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just a fabulous book. If you could, as I say, you may or may not like it, but I felt it went dark very quickly, especially if you're used to Marvel. It was very of its time where they were experimenting with stuff. So they are real. You say grading for me.
Grading for resale, Christina, is what he's sort of, or adding value to a book is more of where he's going with this.
Yeah, exactly. Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man 97, Dark Hawk 2, Going to the Moon.
God.
No, No
Where's
money in there.
Where's Beckerman?
But it does have Spider-Man in there, Spidey, which is why I wanted to.
And Hobgoblin.
And Hobgoblin. This is nice. Again, I love getting the gimmicky covers graded, but no point now. So this is nice and shiny. Issue 25. His origin finale. Beautiful condition, but no value on that book. So why bother?
Oh, Barry Windsor
Smith. So this is the whole set of the Weapon X run, which again I would love to get in 9.8. And Rob and I have talked about this. Rob's Fat Stacks, the registry, right? Getting all of these books and having them on the registry.
Yeah,
that's another reason why I used to grade, so I could get them on the registry and win the registry set. So that's the full set of Weapon X.
Again, I actually bought that. I actually bought that entire set off a seller off eBay, actually, because I was like, there was a couple of key books in there, but mainly because of the Barry Windsor Smith art. But it's just a fantastic story.
It's a great story.
And I'm like, yep, I want these. I'll buy all these.
So there's 12 issues if you get the first one, which isn't in here, right? Because I think I've graded that one already, a couple of them. There's 12 issues in total, right? So if you talk about and this is without cleaning and pressing, $40 a book, right? So you're at $480, and you don't even know you're going to get a 9.8.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the other challenge. It is now at this point where it is. I'd love to get them graded, but then and
there's probably only one, maybe two books that would have a decent resale value in that group.
In that run. Well. Exactly. The first one, for sure. Yeah. Joel the Geek, I have a whole set of Weapon X when it came out. Windsor Smith pulled me in. Absolutely. Barry Windsor Smith is a fantastic artist. I'd love to see more of his work. I think he's a bit of a recluse now.
Retired recluse, hiding from the world. A bit like what Dicko did in the later years.
Here's another one, mate. So I collect the 25th anniversary frames, covers.
I know quite a few people that do that.
And again, that's a great registry set to chase, right? For those of you who don't know, the registry is something that CGC has where you earn points for the graded comics that you own. And you can compete against other collectors with different sets. And I'm lucky enough to be I won an award for the comics registry back in 2022 for the best Bronze Age set with my Captain Britain run. But it is, again, it's one of those where they get you in, you're trying to complete the set of 9.8s in a specific title, and that's how they get you, right?
Yeah. And it's basically a pissing contest.
Correct. It's basically that.
Yeah. First Jim Lee in Marvel.
I think it's one of the early Jim Lees. I don't know if it's the first.
I think it's the first. I think it's the first Jim Lee in Marvel. I think this book.
And again, I'm like, that's a maybe, right? Because there is some residual value there. But again, you can't see the art on the interiors unless you know. So that's that. What else we got? We've got a huge stack. Let me bring these up. Let's start at the top. Everyone's favorite, Taskmaster.
And a Pence variant.
The values on this have gone down tremendously.
I hunted this book for quite a while, and eventually got one at what I would call a reasonable price. But because I think there is, not including the pence, is there a 30 and a 35 cent variant or something, or
I'm
a 25 and a 30?
35.
Yeah, but there is one that's like a bit like the Star Wars #1. It does have a little bit more value because that's the trial market price variant. But yeah, it is a good book to have. It's a good, I wouldn't say a major key, but like at least a mid key to own in the collection if you like Marvel books.
Yeah. Cliff on Comics, Hawkeye looking very sexy. Yes. Agreed. And then there we go. Accurate, Cliff. Accurate. Very accurate. Taskmaster. I always love this book. I'll pick it up whenever I can. Hercules. Again, this is another interesting. First solo Hercules. Issue 26. Jack Kirby cover, I believe.
You tell by the face.
Goes under the radar, this one.
I love the Marvel Premiere books. I'm actually passively trying to collect the Marvel Premiere run. But there's a lot of keys in that run that don't necessarily make it easy.
Talking of Hercules and Bob Layton, the Hercules series, again, this is one of those where I'd love to get it graded just to know the grade, like if it is a 9/8, because these are beautiful copies, but not worth it, right? Realistically, just not worth getting graded.
And so you don't see these books in people's collections very often.
Yeah, great Bob Layton art, Hercules, and then a fabulous Galactus cover there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think that's the one where they cover the origin of Galactus. But yeah, another great reason to buy that. And then on top of that, I think the 4-issue series that followed on from that, these are also really high grade. So I wanted to see what else. Got a high grade copy of this, X-Men number 7. No value to it. So yeah.
I think that's supposed to be don't be passive.
Don't be passive. Yes, speak up, Spotty.
It's only like you may have missed the earlier part of the chat, Joel, but it's a different ball game over here in Australia to collect books. So it's very, very hard for me to get and to pay for some of these books. So first Mobius.
Mobius. Again, this is one of those I submitted a load. This one I was going to get pressed and clean, but no point now.
And obviously, like you would have had to do that in the spec bubble where either Loki season 1 or Loki season 2 came out.
Correct. Yeah.
Or Gain cover.
Beautiful cover. This one's great. This one does have some value just because of that cover that was. This is the engagement issue. So yeah, I was because this one's out of the Marvel sagas. This is the only one that has some value. So I was considering getting this one graded, but no more. G.I. Joe 16. This one was going in. This one not so great a cover. But yeah. G.I. Joe 22. This is the first appearance of Duke.
That is a cool cover.
And I've got a number of G.I. Joes to sort of. I was considering that Duke one is the only one that's actually probably got some value, but again, not bothering. I've got this now graded, so I don't need to grade this. This is Watchmen number 1. This might be, but this was a high grade copy.
Another book that was hot for quite a few minutes, actually.
Yep. This one, I took this with me to Heroes Con. And didn't end up getting it graded because it's got a spine tick just here. You can see that?
Yeah, you can see it.
So it's like, ugh. And I was going to get it signed by Andy Kubert while he was there. But I just decided that one. So that's a good example of like where I've thought about getting it graded. I tried to get it graded and didn't bother. Yeah.
And you automatically know that's going to be at least, probably a 9, 9.2.
Yeah,
9.4 at most because of that spine tick, and
then there's no value in that book, so there's no point doing it. So yeah, that's why I didn't submit that.
It is still like even now it is still probably, besides a few of the really early books, is probably one of the more expensive books of the run.
Yes, it is.
Like it's literally like the first probably 10 issues. There's some dollars. There's obviously that classic, I think it's number 17 with the Super Nintendo cover where he's jumping out and it's yellow and orange in the thing. And then there is the racial slur book, if you have that version, not the edited version. But that is probably one of the pricier books in that run.
That one and issue 10.
Yeah.
First battle between, like the origin battle of Sabretooth and Wolverine.
Yeah.
So that one's a good one. We got a New Mutant Special Edition. I love this book. This one I was going to get signed by R. Adams. I've just heard he's going to Heroes Con. So I will probably put that in the maybe pile to sort of take to see if I can get it and get it signed. I do have one of these graded already, but I only hit a 9.0. So I've been looking for a secondary copy to get to bump that up. So this one will probably come because it is Art Adams. And talking of Art Adams, I've got another copy of Gumby's Summer Fun. Right? Classic Art Adams. Again, this is one, if he's there for signing, I'll take it and get it signed and maybe witnessed.
I think he'd get a laugh out of that too.
Yeah. Well, I've got one of this already with a sketch that he did one of the CGC signings. So I'll do this again, get him to do Gumby. But yeah, that's if you haven't heard of that book, there's two of them. There's Summer Fun, and I think there's the Winter Special as well. And they're actually quite funny. Love covers that use negative space, absolutely. And that is a classic example of negative space. Close us off. I've got a whole bunch of Iron Man that I bought these raw from a UK auction house, Spidey, and they all came in and they were beautiful, like all in the nines. But there's again, this is one of those where I had to make a tough decision. There's no key significance. There's not a lot of money in it. So why would I get them graded when I can just keep them raw?
So there's no 55 obviously in there.
Well, there's 145.
Demon in the Bottle storyline.
148. The issue before 150, which is that classic Doom cover. But this is Doom Quest where they go to the Middle Ages. But that's an interesting one. I think that's seen a bump in value when RDJ got announced.
Yeah, right? It did a little bit. Only a little bit.
Interesting. Though. Yeah. Unicorn 154. Issue 155. 156. I loved this run of Iron Man, by the way, with Bob Layton on art and John Romita. Iron Man versus Moon Knight.
Nice.
The Challenge of the Chessmen, issue 163. 171 with Thunderball. 187. Again, beautiful looking copies, but just there's no point getting books like this graded.
Yeah, there's not, and once again, not a lot of. There's some decent keys in the Iron Man run, but not like some real, like besides Thanos and probably number one, most of them are minor keys.
Yeah. Issue 195.
Shaman.
Shaman. Jim Rhodes as Iron Man at this point. And then this one's quite good. Both the classic Iron Man and the original Iron Man, and James Rhodes. So you've got Tony Stark in one suit and James Rhodes in the other. But yeah, that's the batch of books that I was like, been sitting in drawers, potentially looking to grade for a while, but no more. So won't be doing that. Let's remove the screen, mate. I think that's it for today, unless we've got any other closing thoughts on grading.
Well, we didn't, like, obviously we've sort of touched briefly on pros and cons, but I think for me, obviously being the raw guy, being the anti-slab guy, probably, and once again, I'll be the diplomatic guy. The actual pros of getting slabs is obviously, things like, even things that people don't necessarily think of. Insurance purposes. I know a lot of people in the States will get stuff done for insurance purposes because they're going to be like, if I have records of, I have, Amazing Spider-Man 1 to 100 all in 9.8s, if I actually have that and list that in my insurance, if I get broken into or stolen or something happens, I have a record of that to claim on insurance. It may not necessarily be as much of a case in other countries, but I know in the States it definitely does.
Yeah.
Obviously, you mentioned preservation. Obviously, you've got a Golden Age Captain America #1, which is like, a big giant boy book or a Tech 27 or whichever. That thing is going to be brittle because it's 80 years old or whatever it is. Obviously, it's going to keep it, in its in its current condition that it's in.
But that's a problem with CGC though, is that so this is the other thing. So comic capsules, for instance, they're UV protected, right?
Yep.
The CGC slabs are not UV protected. So your books are at risk in those slabs, right? I don't know any slab that's UV protected right now. And chat, keep me honest. If you know one, I don't know any slab that is UV protected, and that is an absolute miss by CGC, particularly on expensive books like unlimited value books. They should be UV protected at the very least, right?
Have a pardon the pun, a higher grade slab itself.
A higher grade slab. I agree. That's something that should have been done for a long time. And someone talked, I think it was Bronze and Modern Gods, Richard was saying, put argon gas in there to preserve the pages, right? Makes sense. The other one, going back to your point on insurance, I think that's my biggest thing for CGC is you can catalog raw books, you could catalog all you like, but there is no way to track the values of those books. CGC, you can track the values of what they've sold for over a period of time because there is a number assigned to that book. You can see where it is. You can see the life cycle of that book. You can see the real fair market value. You can't really see that with a raw book. That's a big downfall. Yeah. And to your point, then it's easier when you're dealing with like an insurance claim because they know you own that book.
There's a paper trail.
Yeah. And so, and also you can see that what the value is. You can track the value of that book, right?
I suppose like the displaying is a double-edged sword. Like you mentioned the UV protection. Obviously, that's the negative side of the sword.
Yeah.
The positive side of the sword, obviously, like it does look like, you look at Dave's, background, the slabs behind. As long as you're careful, you put them in non-direct sunlight, things like that. It does look great on a wall, using the sort of the clip hangers and stuff like that. Display it like you can display raw books, but it's easier to display slab books. And it does look really nice. But yeah, as I said, like there are a lot of positives to slabbing, but the other flip side is, obviously you can't look at it, you can't read it. Okay, you can do it digitally or buy a facsimile, so on and so forth. But yeah, there's definitely, you could sit down and you could write like probably 5 to 10 on both sides of the pros and cons columns.
Correct.
Quite easily.
It's a funny one, Spidey. You mentioned comics, but it's you and I love our cards, right? Trading cards. And I don't mind trading cards grading because of the fact you can see the front, you can see the total product.
Yeah.
With comics, and I struggled with this when I first got back into comics. I was like, why do people put these in slabs? Like, I couldn't understand at first. But it was, to your point then, the pros came out in terms of like, oh, actually, it's holding its value. I know that book is going to stay the same grade. It's not going to get damaged. The preservation piece came out. We've got a couple more comments. I keep a record of all my comics with scans on my blog. Yep. I think, we try to do that. I've started getting into CLZ. I didn't realize CLZ it tracks CGC as well as your sort of raw book. So you can actually put in your
if you go to the extra details section, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, all collectors around the world from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. Hello, welcome. I don't like comics. I'm sure you do.
No, it's the full name is I don't like comics. I love them. It's just it only shows that because I have seen him pop up in the chat on Only Slabs with Mr. Rob Fatstacks. So
welcome. And Joel, I didn't think about them not being UV protected. Honestly, it's a miss. It is the biggest miss for the seminal grading company not to UV protect books. It's the biggest miss.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention, Spidey, and I don't know your thoughts on this. No one's talking about this piece, right? So obviously if you're shipping books to CGC at the moment, right, you've potential to hit with the tariffs going in.
Yep.
But no one's talking about the raw materials that CGC have to get to slab those books. Will potentially
have tariffs on them.
They will have tariffs on them. Yeah. So the price is already high enough, right? If their raw material cost goes up and it's probably coming from China, right? You're looking at like an additional 145%. I think that's the latest number, right?
Something stupid like that. Yeah.
Additional tariff. Like, this is the thing. I'm glad I got a batch in before the tariffs are announced, because they'll still have stock, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of things happen. The first thing is they start running out of this stock, right? So then the whole they'll have a whole bunch of stuff backed up in grading, encapsulation, quality control, because they won't have the slabs or the raw materials to make the slabs, right? And then if they do get it, they're going to have to swallow that cost or pass it on to the end consumer. And this is the thing. This is why tariffs are bad, right? Because ultimately, or at least tariffs that you don't have, that are not set in stone, just, if they keep changing around, you just don't know how much this is all going to cost.
Oh, so next week it's going to be $40. The week after it's going to be $145. It's like,
yeah. So who knows? It's as I say, this is the reason why I've I'm on hiatus, and it's a shame. But my grading behavior was like, I'm supposed to be on the side of CGC, and I'm like, more and more, I'm like, I want to get raw books, collect raw books, keep them raw. And it's interesting because prices aren't that. There's not that much of a difference in pricing there.
But the other question we haven't addressed is, yes, you said you are a CGC guy, but would you convert to another company?
No.
Like, obviously, you wouldn't worry about Halo, you wouldn't worry about PGX, but obviously the other big player in the game is CBCS.
I've got a couple of CBCS slabs, but the problem is CGC's got me because of the registry, which is one thing, right? Because
Dave loves the pissing contest.
I love the registry. It's a great thing.
Yeah, like if you're not doing the points thing and you're doing it for, as a physical record, as an insurance thing or something like that, I can see from that thing. But if you're doing the pissing contest, I can see it being fun, but I can see it being a money pit even further than it already is.
I think if you collect, so I don't do it to there were a couple of sets that I did do exactly that. I wanted to get the best sets.
Yeah.
Right. But generally now, to your point, I use it as a catalog to be able to go, right, I've got these books and they're listed against my name. So therefore, if there's ever any issue, I don't have to worry. I can do the fair market value price and go from there. But yeah, that's how they got me. I've got some CBCS slabs, especially when they were doing the verification before CGC started doing it.
Yep.
And I think that's where they had the value. But the issue is again, same thing. Why would you get, let's say, my Avengers 4? Why would I submit that to CBCS when I could submit it to CGC? And if I ever go to sell that book, I know I'll get more money for it because it's in a CGC slab. Like that's the reason why I'm like, and that's the
other problem. That's the other problem with this. We'll call it an industry. The other problem that's a problem with this industry. Like, obviously, I've been in a few industries over the years, and obviously things like Microsoft in the 80s and 90s, they had the monopoly on the computer market. Obviously, Nike and Jordan had the monopoly on the market in the 90s and early 2000s. CGC has the monopoly on the slab game.
Yes.
So CGC commands the most dollars. But if it is something that you're wanting to preserve, something that you want to insure or something like that, maybe looking at another company. If it's a book that's near and dear to your heart, you do not want to get rid of it. You're never going to sell it, regardless of the situation. It might be signed or personalized. It might be your birthday book or something that you're never going to get rid of. Maybe another company might be the way to go. But that's options for the chat. Obviously, you don't have to get CGC. Some people love them opposed to other companies. Exactly. And this is obviously me being the non-slab guy, I can say that. But the other option is just look for the book already in a CGC slab. If you do not want to submit and you don't want to go through all the extra headaches and BS, basically, maybe you just want to buy them already slabbed.
And actually, that's a really good point. So I haven't given up on buying slab books. So I just, because of this whole issue with the tariffs and not wanting to that additional cost and that unknown and the economics not stacking up, what I did recently is I just bought a whole bunch of books that I've been looking for, right? And I wanted in high grade. And so I found them on eBay, went direct to the seller, knocked some money off the books in terms of a direct discount because we were going direct. And I ended up with 4 books that I've been really looking for, right? And they're all graded at varying grades. But if I found those books, it'd take me months, years even to find these books in the wild. And now I've got them and I don't need to even get them graded. They're already done. So that's another benefit for me because, I'm not going to read those books. They're Hanna-Barbera Marvel comic books.
Yeah.
And I'm really buying them for the cover, not for the actual interior art. So
yeah.
We got a couple. I don't like comics, but I love comics, apparently. I love to support Rob Comics, Comics Curing Cancer, and other channels kick me out because my name is silly funny. I love vintage toys and comics.
Yeah, because doesn't show the whole name.
We weren't going to kick you out.
No.
I have great friends in Australia. We trade. I ask for Palatoy vintage toys, and I send rare Canadian comics. Great hobby.
Oh, nice.
Joel the Geek, I'm the guy who looks for already slab books. I have 2 so far and paid $50 to $80 respectively at cons. It's great.
Yeah, it is probably the less headachy way of doing it. Yeah, if you don't want to go down the submission route.
Yeah. Just encapsulate them yourself, put a 9.8 grade on them, just be obnoxious about it. Put the absolute worst dog chewed condition ones in with that grade. Really go against the grain. It's funny.
I'll give my 0.5 book at 9.8. Yes.
Well, that's the other thing that we probably haven't covered, right? Like the swappity gate, the controversies, the way that CGC continually shoot themselves in the foot, like the slab gate situation, which still hasn't resolved itself.
Banana gate,
which again still hasn't resolved itself. So they're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And again, that's made or tarnished my decision in terms of like how I limit. And it'll be interesting to see what these books come back that I've got in at the moment, because that might completely change my opinion again, right? Like if they come back poor, because that's the one thing you mentioned it earlier in the beginning of the show, right? Everyone complains when the grades, that's a 9.8, you came back an 8.5.
Yeah.
So
everybody thinks they're a professional grader, especially if they're in the slab game. And I will be the first person to admit that, like, when I look at buying books, I'm obviously buying raws and I'm buying on a budget. My only stipulation is as long as they're complete, front to back, that's fine. They could be dog chewed to the buggery, but as long as they're complete, I'm happy. But yeah, when it comes to the slab guys, obviously they can be quite, pedantic and and very picky. I know Mr. Dave over here is a grade snob. He loves his high grade stuff. There is nothing wrong with that. Everybody, each their own. Everybody collects the way they want to collect. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially when it comes to if you have to resell stuff. Just collect the way you want to collect.
We had a special request, so I brought it up. Still, can you please close in on your Iron Man glove in the background? Looks very nice. So this is my.
Was this the Hasbro one?
This is the Disney Parks one.
Oh, okay.
So it comes with detachable Infinity Stones. It's running out of batteries. I need to put some new batteries in it. But yeah, that is the Nano Gauntlet, I think. So. All right, Spidey, we're going to call it quits, I think. I think we've answered the question. Raw is best at the moment.
For me, anyway. But that'll always be my answer.
Just
at the end of the day, just collect the way you want to collect.
Exactly. Collect the way you want to collect. And, you know, I enjoy my slabs. I enjoy my raw books. I'm increasingly enjoying my raw books. But thanks so much for joining me today, Spidey.
I couldn't miss this one.
Couldn't miss this one for the world. So thank you very much. It's a bit of an unusual mail call show because we didn't do much of a mail call. It was more of a, you know, discussion session. But yeah, thank you for joining. If you haven't subscribed to Mad Spidey, please go over and give him a subscribe. Great content every Sunday, mate. You do your hangout and Spidey's Outback.
Spidey's Outback, or Sunday morning for us and Saturday night for the North American, like that side of the world. And then obviously all my pre-recorded stuff during the week. So
great to see you, mate. Thank you so much for joining, and everyone in the chat. Thank you. It's been a really good show. Thank you. You've been great. We will see you next week. No idea what I'm going to be covering next week, but we'll have something. Any ideas? Pop them in the comments. And let me know what you'd like to see us cover next week. Also, next week we do have the we have the members sketch show where I'll be doing a sketch of Wolverine for Brian LCS and Mary Marvel for Cliff on Comics, and then we'll be drawing the new or the next members sketch for the next show. So if you're not a member, please consider joining. All the money goes to the Hero Initiative, and you might win a sketch on the next show on, I think it's Saturday my time, and that'll be Friday evening in the US, UK. So with that, thank you very much. Spidey, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining. We will see you all very, very soon. I'm going to play the outro. Thank you again. Take care, everyone.